The ladder of risk was created by the Fraternal Information Programming Group. or FIPG. They are well known within the Greek community for their risk management policies and procedures. In fact, there are currently 47 Greek organizations who are members of the FIPG and follow their guidelines. The Randolph-Macon social host policy is also based off of the FIPG policy. So at a glance, the FIPG policy can look very intimidating, but when you boil it down, it's very simple. To stay low on the ladder of risk, and you will stay out of trouble. Each time we violate one of the guidelines of the ladder of risk, we are climbing up and increasing the chances for harm for our organizations. Rung 1. The possession of alcoholic beverages while on chapter premises or during a fraternity event in any situation sponsored or endorsed by the chapter or at any event a reasonable observer would associate with the fraternity must be in compliance with any and all of the applicable laws of the state, province, county, city, institution of higher education, and must comply with either BYOB or third-party vendor guidelines. That's a lot, so we will break this one down even further. So the first part we want to look at is while on chapter premises or during a fraternity event in any situation sponsored or endorsed by the chapter or that a reasonable observer would associate with the fraternity. This means that if anyone can associate with your fraternity, that it can be considered your event. This goes for any portion of the policy here on out. It does not matter if it actually is your event or not, your organization can be charged. The next part. Must apply with all laws of the state, province, county, city of institution of higher education, and must comply with either BYOB or third-party vendor guidelines. Whenever you are at an event that is your event or possibly could be seen as your event or on your chapter premises, you must make sure that you follow all of the laws and that your event with alcohol is either BYOB or third-party vendor. So breaking this down, this one's very simple. Don't break the law. If you don't break the law, then you will be keeping yourself from risk. It's pretty simple. The drinking age is 21. Don't let anyone under the age of 21 drink. In addition, chapter functions, which can be any event observer would associate with a fraternity with alcohol, must have BYOB or third-party vendor. Rung 2. Alcoholic beverages may not be purchased through or with chapter funds, nor may be purchased with the same for members or guests be undertaken or coordinated by any member in the name of or on behalf of the chapter. The purchase or use of bulk quantities of common source containers of alcohol, examples of kegs and cases, is prohibited. So breaking this down some more. Alcoholic beverages may not be purchased with chapter funds or with the members. This is because your organizations are not taverns. They do not have a liquor license. You cannot purchase alcohol. Every event that you have with alcohol, individuals must either bring their own alcohol or they must be purchased from a third-party vendor. The purchase or use of bulk quantities of alcohol or common source containers are prohibited. Bulk quantities of alcohol can be kegs and cases, and this is to keep you from staying at risk. Whenever you drink large amounts of alcohol, and whenever you have kegs or cases, it becomes a huge liability because it often leads to binge drinking, which can create falls, alcohol poisoning, deaths, or other injuries. Rung 3, open parties, meaning those where unrestricted access by members of the fraternity without specific invitations where alcohol is presented or are prohibited. In order to further decrease risk, events with alcohol must have a guest list. For every event that you have, you must have a guest list. At Randolph-Macon, our policy is 4 times the number of members you have in your organization. You have to have each person's name on your guest list. It cannot just be an organization or a group of people. It has to be each person's individual name. Rung 4, no member collectively or individually shall purchase for, serve to, or sell alcoholic beverages to any minor, those under the legal drinking age. This one again is pretty simple. Don't serve alcohol to those underage. It's against the law. So anything, whenever you do and you break the law, it becomes a high-risk behavior. Rung 5, the possession, sale, or use of any illegal drugs or controlled substance while on chapter premises or during a fraternity event or at any event that a reasonable observer would associate with the fraternity is strictly prohibited. This one's very cut and dry. There are no illegal drugs allowed in the fraternity. We have a 0 tolerance for this policy, and if you are found with drugs, you can very easily lose your charter. Rung 6, No chapter may co-sponsor an event with alcohol distributor or tavern, a tavern defined as an establishment gathering more than half of the annual gross sales from alcohol, or which alcohol is given away, sold, or otherwise provided to those present. This includes any event held in or on the property of a tavern as defined above for the purposes of fundraising. However, a chapter may rent or use a room in an area with a third-party vendor and guest list. An event in which alcohol is presented may be conducted or co-sponsored with a charitable organization if the event is held with the provisions of the policy. So breaking this one down even further, no chapter may co-sponsor an event with an alcohol distributor or tavern at which alcohol is given, sold, or otherwise provided to those present. This includes an event held on the property of, or as the tavern devised below. No co-sponsorships with distributors. The chapter becomes legally liable if they have an event with a tavern. And so in order to protect your organization, if you have one of these events, you must also follow third-party vendor guidelines. A chapter may rent a room or use a third-party vendor and a guest list. You can, if you go to a tavern or something, you can rent a room out from them and use that for your organization, but you must rent it out and then also follow third-party vendor guidelines. Rung 7, no chapter may co-sponsor or co-finance or attend an event participating in a function where alcohol is purchased by any of the host chapters, groups, or organizations. This is the all or nothing rule. Again, if you are part of the event, then you become just as liable for it. So if you are partnering with an organization, say your alumni association, and they also have to follow third-party vendor guidelines because you share just as much risk as they do. Rung 8, all recruitment activities associated with any chapter will be non-alcoholic. No recruitment activities associated with any chapter may be held at or in conjunction with alcohol distributor or tavern defined in the policy. All recruitment events must be dry. Any individual expected to make a life-changing choice, like accepting a bid, cannot be counted upon to make an educated decision when they are under the influence of alcohol. If alcohol is the only selling point of your organization to a prospective member, then it's probably not someone you want to be part of your organization. And also, most of the time, the men and women looking to join our organizations are under the age of 21. So therefore, they really shouldn't be drinking alcohol because that increases the risk and it breaks the law. Rung 9. No member or pledge, associate, new member, or novice shall permit, tolerate, encourage, or participate in drinking games. The definition of a drinking game includes but is not limited to the consumption of shots of alcohol, liquor, or alcoholic beverages, the practice of consuming shots equating to one's age, beer pong dares, or any other activity which involves pressure or encouragement related to consumptions of alcohol. No drinking games are allowed. Just like rung number 2 in bulk quantities of alcohol, drinking games encourage high-risk drinking and binge drinking, which can create risk for your chapter. Rung 10, no alcohol shall be present at any pledge, associate member, new member, or novice program, activity, or ritual of the chapter. This includes, but is not limited to, activities associated with bid night, big brother, little brother events and activities, big sister, little sister events and activities, family events, or activities and initiation. Rung 10 basically means all associate member activities must be dry. Just like rung number 8, there cannot be any alcohol involved with the development of associate members, even if they are of legal drinking age. No alcohol should ever be present. So the FIPG policy is a lot to look at, but if you boil it down, there are 4 points that you need to remember. If you remember these 4 points, you are keeping your chapter low on the ladder of risk. The first one is don't break the law. It's pretty simple. If you don't break the law, then you're staying low in risk. The fraternity does not provide alcohol. At no time should the fraternity be providing alcohol to anyone. And the next one is know who your guests are. Every event that you have where alcohol is present, you must have a guest list. And finally, no alcohol during the joining process. If alcohol stays out of the process, then you are keeping yourself low on the ladder of risk.